As far as the origins of my lyricism and me as a rapper as a whole, I was born in New Haven, Connecticut. I really started getting into rap hardcore when I was 15, which is also when I developed, my namesake, Cambatta. I became Cambatta. I put out my first mixtape when I was 20, and that was, or 21, 22. That was the Visionary mixtape by DJ Nice. Then I did the Visionary 2 mixtape, which led me to The Porch, which was also around the same time that I first started really experimenting with marijuana and psychedelics. From that point on, it was like, before, even as a kid, I've always had like an ability to kind of observe obscurity and explain it, to say, oh my goodness, do you see that? Or, I was gifted with a specific kind of intellect that really gave me a clear, innate, predisposed ability to rap off rip. So I was always real clever and witty, and I always had kind of the knack for metaphysics. It didn't really become awakened until I started putting out the Porch albums, and I was writing outside in nature. I was experimenting with psychedelics. I quit all my jobs, so I had nothing but time to focus on becoming great, becoming excellent, and becoming a master, which to me is the trinity of an artist. Literally mastery, excellence, and then greatness. So right now I'm in my phase of excellence. I feel like I've already mastered the art to an extent. I don't really want to fully believe that, but I believe once you hit excellence is when you start to repave the road and make new pathways. And I'm kind of a trailblazer of a sense, to where I'm taking lyricism to a new height. Hopefully I raise the bar to a level that the only way that you'll find a rapper to surpass me is if I clone and create a female version of myself, and then I procreate with that female and create a super up syndrome, extra chromosome version of Cambatta. So basically the drive for my infinite lyricism is excellence, mastery, and greatness, and also just the real excitement and passion I get when I'm able to connect an entendre, a metaphor, a crazy simile. I'm able to, take 11 syllables and make them rhyme for a whole song, and really, kind of play this word Sudoku with myself, and that's really it. And it's infinite, so it's not gonna stop progressing. So basically, I've always had a philosophy in my life. It's kind of been like a trim the fat kind of look at life. Like, way to look at life. Even stemming back to me watching basketball, really I was watching because I wanted to either see somebody do a fancy crossover and make somebody fall, or I wanted to see somebody do, a buzzer beater 3-pointer, or I wanted to see the craziest dunk. Basically, I was watching to see the dunks. If a game didn't have dunks, then I really wasn't interested in it. Like, so off rip, it was always about, especially with rap, it was at the beginning, it was literally about the multisyllabics, the punchlines, and the clever aspect of rap. I felt like with my abilities to translate melody and rhythm, that was just innate. That came, from my parents. My mom is a master at emulation. She can basically do any accent, any voice. She's just an actress as a whole, the most dramatic person ever. And so of course I inherited some of that. So I could always make my voice sound like anything. So when I first came into rap, I was basically just emulating, and I would only pick certain kind of rappers: Big L, Cameron, Eminem, and I would look at what made them good. I knew that Cameron was dope because of his random relations. He would just say the most random, obscure things. My closet's a pet cemetery. Thought he was a gladiator. Now he ate her and he happy gladiator. I took that aspect from Cam. Eminem, it was the multisyllabics. Big L, he just had the cleanest rhyme schemes and his punches. He was really one of the first really punching like that, just saying all kinds of different kind of punchlines, because the punchline doesn't have to be a metaphor or a simile. So, and then I would listen to a DMX, And I realized at that point it's about inflection, tone, emotion. Basically, you're a vocal actor. So it's very easy in something like rap, which is a mental facet, to just observe all the things that make the best rappers the best, and then practice them and implement them into my own style. So as you can see, we're in the Bronx right now. Same thing. In order for us to survive in a place like this, you have to be able to see other people surviving and kind of extrapolate those skill sets into your own nature. So you'll talk a certain way, you'll walk a certain way, because you know that that's the way to success. With rap, because it's not physical, there's no limitations. I knew that as long as I have time and I take my time and I don't rush and I'm very critical, self-critical and self-honest, there's not much I can't master. So taking the best of all my favorite rappers and blending them in is how it started. That's once I've mastered that, I then started to develop kind of my own cadence, my own nuances, my own ad-libs, my own approach. There's certain Cambatta-ism like things that if anybody else does them, you'll know that they're a Cambatta fan. So that comes naturally only after you master something. Then you can start. It's kind of like Bruce Lee's philosophy. You learned all the techniques so you can then forget them. And then you're like water. Then you can just feel safe adapting to any circumstance. Any position you land in, you know how to strike or how to defend from there. So that's the origin of the style. It's the style of no style. Jeet Kune Do. LSD is a concept that I first seeded and planted and started really thinking about in 2015. Even before coming to New York, I moved to New York in November 2015. I moved to the Bronx, and I already had this concept in mind because prior to that I did a song called DMT, which was basically a song where I rhyme and I all the rhymes end with the break, like words that are synonymous with the D and the M and T acronym in DMT, and it rhymes for the whole song using the acronym. So I already knew in my mind that I was gonna do LSD at some point. Once I thought of this, I realized that it means Lunar Solar Duality. And when I look at my astrological chart, when you see my birthday on July 21st, it's on the cusp of a Leo, which is the sun or the lion, and the Cancer is the moon. So essentially my birthday is kind of like this lunar solar straddling of the fence in a sense. So, but it also defines my personality as a person to where just like I said, I'm a happy-go-lucky, fun guy. Like, usually stress-free. Especially when I'm not doing my rap. But once it comes to my approach to rap, I'm very serious and very dedicated and very hard. It's all or nothing. It's kind of like a life or death approach. So it kind of turned into a album because I didn't know that that's what it was gonna be. Even I recorded Nigger Christ in January 2016. So literally 2 months after I moved here, I already started on the album. Still didn't know what I was gonna call it. I had a couple names in sight. And then we came out with the DMT Definitive Metagod Trilogy, which was a compilation of the Smoke and Mirrors songs. So that was us kind of using the acronym in effect. And then after that, I was like, okay, yeah, now it definitely makes sense for me to use the LSD title as an album. So we then made the 33 song was the next one. And I believe after that, it was it was Nigger Christ, then it was 33, yup. And after that, it was like I was living here and things kept kind of knocking us off track. I then did the Tupac Murder Confessions video. I did 2 Holy Ghost projects, the Cambatta, and it wasn't until 2018 November literally 3 years after starting the project that Mellow Music hit us up and kind of verified that they were going to give us a record deal. And I knew right off jump, I was like, this is our opportunity to get LSD out. And from that point, it was like, okay, I can give them what we have now, or I can try to milk as much time out of this opportunity to create, you know, the best album I possibly can. And it just so happened that it ended up landing in 2020, which is 2020, the year of, you know, perfect clarity, the real vision where we get to see what's going on. And it just so happened it was a year Kobe died. Kobe made his transition. Also the year of the COVID virus, the riots, and also the year of my 33rd transition. So LSD literally is landing on my birthday, to where I turned 33, on the cusp of the lunar and solar. So to me, this project is beyond me. This is prophecy. This was made before I was made, and I just had to live it out. So this will be the transitionary album of my life. This is gonna be the life-changing process, the beginning of it at least. So LSD is, in my opinion, my first album. The rest of them were compilations and mixtapes. I would say the main inspirations for, you know, my life musically, my skill set musically, my sound musically, is first and foremost soul music, R&B music, funk music, and neo soul music. Earth, Wind and Fire, Willie Hutch, Maze, Heatwave, Al Green, Marvin Gaye, the Isley Brothers, James Brown, Michael Jackson, Prince, D'Angelo, Erykah Badu, Bilal. That crafted my mind, it crafted my spirit, crafted my essence. Essentially, I think like that, even in my approach to rap. It wasn't until I got a little older that I started getting into rap, but immediately it was Big L, Cameron, DMX, Jay-Z, Nas, Tupac, Busta Rhymes, Cassidy, Cannabis, J.R. Ryder, I mean, then Lupe, all the way up to Kendrick Lamar. I listen to them, I love them, especially if they could get me out of thinking. Once I can get to a point to where I can just enjoy you, then that's it. You're the only person I'm gonna listen to. So all of those people, not only do I enjoy them, but they've all kind of inspired an aspect of my creativity and my style and my approach to the music as well. I didn't add in Eminem. He was also a great. As far as my direct rhyme style, I would say Eminem is the greatest influence as far as my multisyllabics go. Lupe would be my greatest inspiration for the entendre. Big L for his punches and his lyrical approach as far as his mathematics and the neatness of how he would structure his rhymes. And then you have DMX and Busta Rhymes and Das Effects and people like that when it comes down to my vocal approach. Even a Buckshot or you know, a Sean P or The Rock, those guys like you know, Dungeon Dwellers, Cellar Dwellers, people like that. Bone Thugs and Harmony, all of them really inspired. Even like a Ludacris, he was so clean. He was basically, yeah, like what I'm saying. He was able to, you could tell he had that voice, and he was nice with his bars. So there was a lot, but I would say all of those names right there. But I would say my holy trinity is Erykah Badu, D'Angelo, and Bilal. So first of all, my introduction into psychedelics was marijuana. Prior to that, I've always had a very, I would say, psychedelic mind, a very lucid, mind, I would often, anytime I ever got sick, I would have horrible hallucinations. And they weren't normal hallucinations. I wasn't seeing monsters and things. I was seeing these weird shapes and images of things that are not really describable, but it was terrifying. It was like watching cellular division or something. And I can only describe it as like maybe like a syringe penetrating a cell wall. And I always seeing things in kind of like a bent way. I didn't realize it though until I started doing psychedelics. And I said, holy shit, all this time I might have had a little something. I might have had a touch of some, some Asperger's or something. Something's going on a little different here. And so I've always had that kind of mind, and that's kind of what steered me away from drugs in the first place. So as soon as I started doing smoking marijuana, after, I was tripping balls and, even on marijuana, having those time distortions, you go from the living room and to the bathroom and you forget how you got there. The world is spinning on you. You're drinking milk and whatever you can to get down from the high. I went from that to experimenting with mushrooms and DMT, and that's really where my life changed. And before I even go any further, I definitely like to say to anybody listening that hasn't experienced psychedelics yet, this isn't anything to play around with. It's, even though it's on the spectrum of marijuana, it's on literally the extreme opposite side. Like, this is light. This isn't even comparable. You can't even explain the high and what happens to you when you're under a strong, heroic dose of mushrooms. If you have not had a traumatically profound experience on it, then you didn't do enough, or you didn't do enough potent mushrooms or DMT, whatever it may be, or you might not have, your brain might not respond to it. Some people's bodies actually destroy it because it is an endogenous DMT substance. Even mushrooms is like maybe a molecule away from the DMT you would find in ayahuasca. It's just like a really alien form, because fungus literally breathes oxygen like men do. It's like almost like mushrooms are aliens, and once we eat them, we get the alien ability to translate nature visually, sonically, spiritually, etc. So these are things that you should enter with extreme caution. Only do them in with people you trust, or if you're by yourself, make sure you're in a safe environment. No clothes, don't get on the phone. And these are as life-changing or more than seeing a UFO from the sky. So once you do it once, you realize real quick that, okay, this is not something that you want to do all the time. So I do it very seriously and ritualistically only a few times a year, and I still shake in terror when I have those shrooms in my hand. I'm pacing around doing prayers, asking, the gods and the ancestors to guide me, because I don't know what's about to happen. There's some classic Cambatta stories that we can have, and we're gonna do some trip reports too. But there's some classic Cambatta moments that on these shrooms to where I lost my mind, and I'm just happy to be here with you. So psychedelics changed my life, but definitely be cautious. Well, first of all, when I approach a song, I always try to imagine what's the best that can happen on this song. It's almost like some of the best advice I've heard is, if you want to be something or you want to be great at something that you're not great at, imagine somebody who's great at it. Then imagine them doing it. Then imagine that you're them doing it, and then do it. And that's kind of how I approach this. To me, it's about suspending the best possible outcome on this beat measure. So when I approach it, I'm actually going through my mind and saying, okay, I can do this pattern, I can do this pattern, I can do this pattern, I like this pattern. When I hear this, I hear ooh, ooh, ooh. So ooh, I'm gonna use that long ooh. That's moon, that's shroom, that's room, that's tune, that's doom, that's goon, that's womb, that's room, that's tune, that's soon, that's that's you, that's fork, that's spoon, that's that's night, that's day, that's noon. I just go through it and make sure that I can imagine it all first. I lay out all my tools. I lay out my whole inventory before I go to battle, so I know exactly how to prepare. And at that point, I enact. I start to manifest it. And when I'm crafting my bars, I'm very detailed and meticulous about the wordage, about always kind of using the best words and making sure that I didn't use it in this context before. I always want to make sure that there's a level of witty humor in it, that it's even in the most serious song, I add kind of this cookie, or I add this what do you call it, like a hidden gem in there, to where you still know that I'm awake, that I'm conscious in here. I'm giving you this serious dialogue, but I'm still gonna give you some kind of bar or something that shows the level of depth that I have with the pen. And I've done it so much that it's become subconscious. So right now I'm just in a process of receiving. I prepared my mind with the linguistic set, with the rhythm patterns, with the reference points, by just being observant to everything I see and hear, and kind of just storing it, like, oh, that's cool. Oh, that guy just did a double backflip on grass. Wow. And then if I have that in my chamber when I approach a rap, I might just be like double backflip on, double backflip with no running start. Money dark, money arcs, honey dark, funny part, the hunter's dark, the under, whatever. I go literally, I find it, I fixate it, and then I open it up and I extrapolate every possibility, and I only choose the best ones. That's basically it. So, in these times, in all times, and every time to come, there's going to be some kind of obstacle. Life isn't worth living without some kind of challenge. If this was pure bliss, there would really be no point. There would be no discernment. If you didn't have pain, there would be no appreciation for pleasure. If you didn't have cold, then what would be hot? So understand that you're living in a system that was here long before you. Every mistake that you can make has been made, and every day is new. So just like the trees blossom and change and then die, so do you, so does everything. And understand that this is a beautiful experience, and always try to get the most out of every moment, and try to live it in the moment. Happiness is a choice, generally. And I would say the best thing you can do while you're here is find a passion, find a hobby, find a art form, find a career path, and do it as great as you can. Not only is it going to occupy your time here, it's going to offer you pleasure, joy. If you do it well enough, you can become really rich and famous. If you're a man, it'll offer you all the most beautiful women. And if you're a woman, it'll offer you the most beautiful men. And that's just shining your light as bright as you can. You don't have to even be conscious of the other lights around you when you shine so bright that you blind anybody else's sight. So my advice to anybody looking is find something and keep doing it. Don't stop. I would say I don't remember the moment that I first thought of doing this. However, I know that it happened after the Tupac murder confessions was already out. And, one of my approaches to preparing my content is always making sure that I try to do a concept that hasn't been done. If you go back to all my albums, there's some kind of, technique showcase on there to where I just kind of tout my abilities, kind of like my dunk contest. And Michael Jackson, I already knew my ability to keep a thread going and keep the context comprehensive while rhyming all of the vowel sounds or syllabics in the entire sentence or the entire bar throughout the entire song. So what you're hearing in Michael Jackson is me literally taking his name and extrapolating all of the descriptions directly from the rhyming sounds in his name. But trying to keep it either directly correlated with his life or hyperbolically correlated with his legend. So even when I'm saying, fire blasting, burn and dry his cabin and hide the ashes. If you remember, his hair got set on fire. So basically, this legend is not an accurate detail of Michael Jackson. To me, it's a mythological detail of Michael Jackson. So just like the way that they would describe Jesus Christ and his miracles, I wrote this in a way to where even the way he spins and dances sounds like he's doing magic. Because he was, even though, we have video effects, as far as a performer goes, Michael Jackson is the greatest we've seen. And the greatest that we may ever live to see because of when he came, where technology was. But also on the other side of that coin, he's also, attached to some real heinous acts that involve, pedophilia and sexual inappropriateness with children. So this is kind of a cleaned up version of Michael Jackson. This is the Michael Jackson that I'd like to imagine writes most of my favorite songs in history. I choose to kind of ignore who he was when he wasn't making music. And I kind of like to think that was him in his most glorious, godly, righteous form when he's making that music. It almost doesn't matter what he does outside of that, because every human has another side of him. And if it's great on one side, it's going to be equally as bad on the other side. So it's almost like in MMA, the guy who has the most fantastic KOs will also probably lose in the most devastating fashion. So this song was conceptualized based off of prior feats lyrically. But I just remember feeling like nobody's ever done like a witty I Am Michael Jackson song and really barred his life away. So I stumbled on the D-Polo beat. He had a beat tape, and I heard it, and I didn't know what I was gonna do, if I was gonna try to find somebody to sample a Michael Jackson song, but I know that that's asking for trouble. But I knew that if I could get something slow and ominous enough, I could really do some work with this concept. So the beat was just so hypnotic and so dark and so ominous that it put you in a trance. And the bells and the high tones in it are almost, they're almost cringy. It's almost too much. But I knew that what that did to you is it put you in this psychedelic trance state. It's definitely hypnotic. It hypnotizes you, and it brings you into the world of Michael Jackson. You see everything perfectly. The tone, the when I say Shaman, everybody knows he used to say Shaman, and I think he was saying Jam On, but it came out sounding like Shaman, which is, if you know me, I did the Cambatta album, which is based off of the Kabbalah, and Shaman was the man who wrote the Zohar book, which is the original origins of the Kabbalah in Judaism. So Michael Jackson is extremely deep, spiritual song that basically, I'm lucky I even got the download to do it. If you haven't heard it, listen to it now, listen to it 1,000 times. It's up to this point, I think it's one of the greatest conceptual songs ever created in rap. I would say it's almost as if every time I've come out with a project, some kind of life change happened. So going back to visionary, going basically from being, kind of this, I would say, recluse or secluded, isolated human being that raps really good, only has a couple of friends, popular in a sense, but not in a famous, attention-seeking kind of sense. Like, people knew who I was, but it wasn't until visionary where I really started hitting blogs and stuff, and it was life-changing because I saw the world's reaction to my music in an authentic way, and I knew that I wasn't delusional in that. And going back, some of those people that I was rapping with on those forums and blogs are some of the most prominent figures in rap and media today. So Visionary 1, I would say, was the first one, and then I would say Visionary 2 was like really a clarifying moment to where it was really me being this adult that worked a lot, and me realizing that this is something that I can't do with a job, and that album reflects that. The next was Porch. Porch was probably, I would say, the most life-changing up to this point, besides what's about to happen with LSD. So I would say the Porch is when I first started smoking marijuana and doing psychedelics. I hooked up with Nino Bless, which, that relationship musically, even and personally, definitely not only got me sharper because I was sparring with such a great lyricist, but I was able to absorb a lot of his fan base too. And I did some, great songs with some real big rappers at that point because of that. And then I would say coming out to New York, meeting Brother Rich or Black Magic and doing these Holy Ghost projects gave my grassroots fan base a capstone. It brought in all the black conscious people, all the colored black conscious people, all the Hispanic conscious people, all the white conscious people, all in the same circle. And it gave me an opportunity to really dig into the metaphysics and spirituality and have an audience that enjoys it and understands it. Cambatta was me showing that even coming out with a project that had little to no effort, stress-wise, like we just kind of put it out. I don't even remember compiling the songs. It just kind of happened so passively. But that showed me that I don't need any help to put out a project. I don't even need to warn people. When something is real and something is well made and it's pure, it's gonna grow feet, word of mouth. And what you guys are about to experience with LSD will be the next life-changing phase. Yeah, so as you guys probably know, I'm not the greatest at keeping secrets. I'm very transparent. I don't feel like I have anything to hide. If I gotta be silly in front of the camera, I'll be silly. If I have something crazy I want to say, I'm gonna say it. It don't matter how cringy or offensive it may be. So you can expect a lot coming in the future. So LSD has literally sidetracked so many things that I've been preparing over these times. Also, it allowed me to make an abundance of music. So, so with LSD dropping July 21st, in October 10th to be exact, me, Brother Rich or Black Magic, and Loaded Lux are doing a collaboration project called Manifest Destiny. I also have the third installment to the Visionary series coming out with Domingo Padillo, who is actually the producer of Dream Shatterer by Big Pun and maybe 100 other classic hip hop songs. He's the bridge who him and Thanos got me on they introduced me to cannabis. Other than that, I gotta say shout out to Soul Messiah and Cyrock. We got something coming. And beyond that, I can't really say much more. Shout out to Master Sin. See, every time I say I can't say much more, I'm gonna give you much more. Master Sin, I got a vinyl coming out. I'm not gonna give you too many names, but just know we're basically locked and loaded until 2022. I don't have to record another song. So you guys are about to get an onslaught. So get used to seeing my face and hearing my voice. So first off, shout out to David Hill from Quantum Scripture Creationz. I'm beyond honored and just definitely grateful for the opportunity to answer these questions. Every time I answer them, I try to make sure that I add some kind of new crumb of information so that it's valuable to not only new fans but people that have seen me explain my life many times before. So shout out to you for this opportunity. Beyond that, my team, Phoenix, Eddie Deuce, Carlos, Brother Rich, everybody that contributed to the album, E-Bass, Songbird, Nick, Piff James, D Polo, V-Don, wow, Super, OP Super, Choop, Matthew Godfather, Natural Onyx, Songbird again, Red Pills on the album, Kenny Buttons on the album, of course No No's on the album, right on the intro, the greatest spoken word poet ever. Who else we got on there? That's it? Yeah, a lot of producers are on the album. Eddie Deuce is on the album. Like I said, definitely the whole team, anybody that's involved in what I'm doing. If I didn't get to shout you out, I'm sorry, and just know that my spirit will do it silently. Also, if you want to check me out, you can, by the time this comes out, if you haven't pre-ordered it, pre-order it now. If it's out and LSD's out, go to www.cambattamusic.com. I'm also on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Cambatta Music, at Cambatta Music. And beyond that, I need word of mouth. I need you, if you want me to collaborate with anybody. A lot of people say Daylight, K Reno, RJ Payne, Cyrock, whoever, Lupe, whoever it may be, hit them up because I'm ready. I'm gonna say this every interview. I want to work with all the best people that my fans want me to work with. I want to manifest them songs. So hit them up. Make sure they know who I am. Bada.